Welcome to the CEO View. My name's Kieran Congdon. I am a self-development coach as a job. Me as a person, I'm kind, I'm caring, laid back, straight talking, no bullshit type attitude, and I take responsibility for my life. We're the only living species on Earth to kill ourselves.
Kieran, a self-development coach.
Leading men to be the best version of themselves and controlling their life.
Biggest culprit in terms of making people not present. Social media notifications. So how do you become present? I'm happy being fat. People will talk about body positivity and owning their body and this is just who I am. It's a fucking cop-out. Who gets a really happy feeling getting out of breath walking upstairs, not being able to play with the kids? Who gets a happy feeling having chest pain because they fucking ran across the street because a bus was coming? No one is present these days. In my industry and what I deal with clients, I teach them to make conscious decisions. So it almost comes back down to, what do you truly, truly want inside?
All right, thank you, Kieran, for coming down from Lake District. Let's just get straight into this. So I know something you talk about passionate is men's mental health. So what's your thoughts on men's mental health? And for somebody who is in a bad place, what is the first thing you would tell them to do?
Good question. To answer your first question, my thoughts on men's mental health is across the country as a whole, it's in a bad place. It's obviously, I'm sure under the age of 40, it's like suicide's the biggest killer, which is crazy because I'm pretty sure, don't quote us on this, but we're the only living species on Earth to kill ourselves. No animal in the animal kingdom kills himself, as far as I'm aware. So it's like, why do we do it? Our reality is that messed up, we can't stand existing. So I think that's my take on it. Also, in addition to that, the reason why that is because our world is changing so quick, but our wisdom and our ability to be able to deal with it is not progressing at the same rate. So, you know, how quickly technology is improving, how quickly things are kind of being developed, our minds aren't developing at the same rate, so we can't handle it. We don't know, we understand the effects of social media now, but we're like years deep. It's almost too late. They're already taking effect and we weren't wise to that when we first created Facebook and Instagram. You know what I mean? So that's my kind of view on men's mental health. There needs to be a lot more education around how to improve it. On a slight tangent here, I will go back to the second question in a second, but there's a lot of talk in the general mental health area anyway, not just men's. In the mental health space, there's popular sayings like, it's okay not to be okay. And it's a good start, cool. But I think that phrase is not finished off. I think that phrase should be, it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to do anything about it. There's action, there's change. Talking helps, it's a first most important step, let me make that very clear. But it also doesn't change anything. Yeah, I see a lot of people trying to deal with their mental health by essentially escaping. So whether it's where I'm from, a popular one is going for fell walks. Go up to the top of the mountain, all the problems go away. Brilliant, well done. But as soon as they come back down off that mountain, the problems are still there. They've got to take action and change something in their day-to-day life. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. So action is the most important thing, I think, actually, as far as sorting your mental health out. But also understanding that mental health isn't just kind of what's inside your head. Like, I teach people to improve themselves physically and mentally, as well as environmentally. And I think mental health is affected by all those. I'm yet to meet someone who is very physically unhealthy, but super mentally healthy.
That is true.
You know what I mean? So taking action and understanding that your physical health is part of your mental health. Your environment is part of your mental health. You could go down the route of, okay, finances, that's part of your mental health, because really there's nothing worse than financial stress. So there's all these different aspects to it, you know? And I guess as if someone was listening to this in a place where they're just not feeling good, because that's what mental health is. I think a lot of people view poor mental health as depression, anxiety. Poor mental health can just, you feel shit. Mental illness mental disease, mental conditions, whatever you want to kind of name you want to give it, okay, you can say that's anxiety, depression. But poor mental health is the equivalent of just being a bit overweight. You're not obese, you haven't got diabetes, but you're just overweight and you're physically unhealthy. Poor mental health is the same, but it's like you just feel shit. You just got no motivation, you just got no get up and go, you've got no energy. Like in my consultations with clients, I have like a 10-point scale where I ask them certain questions and we mark it out of 10, and then we get a snapshot of their mental health. So like, what's the confidence like? What's their self-belief like? What's their self-esteem like? What's their energy like? What's their motivation like? So then I can get an idea of what's their mental health like. So I think the mental health, it's a big topic. You know, it's hard to improve if you don't know how, obviously. But if someone was listening to this in a bad place, I'd be firstly saying, you've got to take responsibility. Whatever has put you in that bad place.
So would you say responsibility as in accountability for where they are?
Yeah, so the kind of, how I put it across is 9 times out of 10, it's not your fault why you're in a bad place, but it's still your responsibility to get out of it.
Why do you say it's not their fault?
Because I presume most people haven't consciously thought, I'm going to go and do X, Y, and Z to put myself in a bad place. So it's not their fault. It wasn't a conscious decision to put themselves in a bad place. So they've kind of just ended up there, you know. In hindsight, could they look back and made better decisions? Yeah, of course, we all can. But it's not their fault. And then, okay.
So isn't that accountability then? Because, as you just said.
Yeah, it's accountability to themselves, I guess, yeah. And it takes responsibility to get themselves out of it. So the minute they can say, you know what, I admit to myself, I'm not happy where I'm at, and I'm going to do something about it. That's the first step. Okay, let's talk about talking. Talking is a big thing I've mentioned, obviously, about it's a big part of improving mental health. It's the first and most important step. Getting things off your chest, saying, oh, look, mate, I'm not very happy right now. I'm not in a good place, X, Y, and Z. You've got to get the thoughts out of your mind, out of your mouth to make them kind of reality. So you can almost see them a little bit. And then after talking, really as quickly as possible needs to come action. Okay, well, let's look at what is making you unhappy. Oh, well, I hate what I see in the mirror. My bird does me head in. I'm skint. I hate my job. I hate it. Like, I can't stand it. Like, I watch my parents grow up every morning going, oh, I've got to go to work. I'd hate to start my day like that. And then touch wood, I never have. And that's like, you know what I mean? Like, what a horrible way to start your day, man.
That's the whole day.
It's like, my mum used to say, she would sit on the sofa and, by the way, I'm going to try my best not to cry about stuff like this. Okay. So I should be all right. But I have done it before, like, for sure, like talking about stuff and no worries. Which is good, slight tangent we want to go on later about mental health, because being vulnerable is actually a strength. A lot of people, especially men's mental health, men think, you know, kind of man up and get on with it, don't talk. Being vulnerable is a sign of strength. I would say it's almost like a weakness, kind of trying to man up and get on with it. Yeah.
Thank you for watching the CEO of You podcast. And recently we've had a look at our analytics and we've noticed over 80% of you guys are not subscribed.
So if you could do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe button, and also comment down below as well.
Thank you, and back to the video.
You know, it shows courage and bravery to be able to open up about how you're really feeling. So anyway, a little tangent. What my mum used to say was, she'd sit on the sofa drinking a tea, saying, I'd rather go to the moon than go to work. Like, and it was just a phrase she said that she just really didn't want to go to work. She hated it. I say she hated it. She hated the thought of going. When she got there, she probably loved it. She was a carer. So she probably loved it, but it's just like, she could have changed that about her life and massively improved how she felt. You know, so I think, yeah, mental health is such a big topic. It's hard to improve. You've got to admit it to yourself. You've got to take responsibility, and you've got to take action. Got to take action. Change something. Like, have a look at what is making you unhappy, what is making you suffer, and take action and change whatever that is. Like, I know that sounds so simple. It might not even be a physical thing. It might not even be your job. It might be just your own perception. Because some people knew. I said I was going to say nothing cliche and regurgitate information, but I'm going to hear you. People say, I'm actually going to quote Peter Cron. Yeah. He says suffering is an illusion in the mind. Right. So
I agree.
I like that.
I kind of agree with that.
I'm talking about hating jobs, right?
Yeah.
So that's maybe because you know deep down you maybe want better, you feel that the work you put in you don't get paid for properly or whatever, right? But if you change your perception on it, I think, thank fuck I've got a job. Suffering
everything
goes
is
away.
perception, yeah.
Suffering is an illusion created in your own mind. I had a story of from a friend who his missus got invited to the Christmas party. She doesn't really get on with her workmates. So because she felt obliged to go, she said, yeah, go on, I'll go. So 2 weeks prior to the Christmas party, she had major anxiety around going to this party she didn't want to go to. She doesn't get on with them, didn't really want to go, but she said she would. So 2 weeks of anxiety later, she then decided on the night, I'm not going to go, I'm going to pull out. So she pulls out right beforehand. And then she's getting texts off people saying, where you at? Where you at? Are you coming? Are you coming? So then she feels guilty, right? Then after in the office the week after, everyone's talking about the Christmas party, how fun it was. Now she feels shit that she never went. So she's had about 3 weeks worth of suffering because of in her own mind. You know, if she just said at the very beginning, listen, just not my thing, don't want to go, and owned it, and didn't get influenced by other people around her, then she wouldn't have suffered with anxiety for 2 weeks. She probably wouldn't have felt guilty afterwards and then felt bad she didn't go. Suffering is all in the mind. It's created in her own mind. She'd done that to herself. For what? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's crazy.
Why do you think people do that? Because I feel like a lot of people suffer with that story that you said.
Because we don't get taught how to think. That's why. Like, who taught you how to think? You don't get taught how to kind of analyze situations. You don't get taught how to almost like, well, you don't get taught how your environment affects you. You don't get taught how to become conscious.
Process your emotions.
Yeah. You don't get taught how to think properly. And it fascinates me because you only know how to think the way you think. So this is why I'm so obsessed with spotting my own blind spots, because they're parts of me which I can't see, but I'm fucking searching rock hard for them because I know if I find them, there's tons of growth there. But I currently only know how to think the way I think. So for me to spot my blind spots and grow as a person, I need to hang around people who are maybe more conscious than me, who can spot my blind spots for me. I need to go to town on whether it's journaling, whether it's reading, whether it's watching videos and in kind of taking in information which is a level above my knowledge, to all kind of help me think better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think people just don't generally know how to think properly or think well for themselves, should I say.
So what would you recommend the first step to take in?
Get a mentor who's been there and done it. Get someone to teach you how to think. Therapy. Therapy's, I think it's a slow process. I've done therapy before myself. Yeah. I think everyone should do it, whether they think they've got problems or not, which is another stigma in the kind of mental health space that I'd like to break personally, is that like a lot of people these days don't go to therapy because they think only people with problems do that. But I personally think the people that do go to therapy are brave, courageous, and they're going to be a hell of a lot more happy in life compared to those that don't. You know? So therapy is a great way. As I said, I do think it's a slow process just because a lot of forms of therapy, they can't tell you what to do. They can't kind of give you actionable steps. It's a lot of, well, what do you think about that? How does that make you feel? What do you think about this? And they can't almost give you it straight and say, are you being lazy? What does that tell you about yourself? But again, you only know how to think the way you think. So yeah, it maybe gets the cogs ticking and you may start thinking on different wavelengths, but until you get a different perspective and start thinking a different way, you're never going to get a different result. You know what I mean?
What does consciousness mean to you?
Oh, good question.
That's a really good question.
That's a good question. What does consciousness mean to me? So I'll sit with this for a second.
All right, while you sit with it, what does consciousness mean to you, Ajene?
Thanks, mate.
Very good question. Consciousness to
It's a
me,
very good question, sir.
consciousness to me is just to be able. I think it's linked to thinking, being able to understand why I do certain things, understand why certain things are happening, and just that's all I've got so far.
Okay. What about you, Kieran?
I think what comes to my mind, firstly, is, well, subconscious is, if someone was thinking subconsciously, it's almost automatic. It's almost,
Yeah.
I think you guys say what I was thinking.
it's almost without thinking. So becoming conscious is, or in my industry and what I deal with clients, I teach them to make conscious decisions. So it almost comes back down to, what do you truly, truly want inside? Deep inside, what do you truly want? Let's say it was 3 went to Costa Coffee, right? You two aren't currently hungry, yeah? But we get in there and you start smelling the sandwiches. You start smelling the food. And I'm like, oh, you're getting some food, lads? And you may say no. There's a conscious decision. I get a sandwich, right? The woman in front of me gets a sandwich. There's all these people around eating. The smell's getting better. You see your favourite sandwich, and all these kind of environmental influences happening. And then I'm maybe even going, oh, come on, just have one. Come on, like, you haven't ate for a few hours, or whatever justification I give you. And then you may say no a few times, but then you're like, oh, go on, I'll have one. So you get a sandwich, right? 10 minutes ago, you didn't want one, you weren't hungry, and you weren't going to get one. But because you've been influenced by everything around you, and probably more so me being with you, you have then made, to a degree, a subconscious decision. At least you've been affected by your environment anyway. So conscious decision making in my book is, what do you truly want deep down? Take away all your environment, take away any kind of state you're in as well. So like, if you're unhappy, a lot of people are unhappy these days, they then find pleasure in food. That's why they end up overweight. But they don't consciously want to be overweight. So it's very much like, okay, well, do you actually want food? Or are you using food as a form of pleasure? So it's, what do you truly want? I think that's what consciousness is. Well, it's more so conscious decision making, but hopefully that's answered the question.
I agree.
I'm going to come back to you with that one. I think I'm going to think about that one.
I would have said just maybe, as in, it's taking yourself off autopilot and actually taking control, because a lot of the things we all do are subconscious, as in, when you repeat something so many times, consciousness is lost, because like you said, it's automatic. Like, for a fact, when you go in the bathroom, you either take a wee, poo, drink, wash, shower. Subconsciously, without thinking, you're going, that's your relationship. And I would say, when you become conscious, like, for example, I would say, when you take a cold shower, that's a very conscious decision, because you don't like it. It's uncomfortable. You get what I'm saying? And that's when I would say, consciousness is just, as you said, seeing things for what it is, and taking yourself off autopilot.
I was teaching some of the high caliber men the other week about how to become conscious. I've done a talk about basically becoming a conscious human in a subconscious robotic world. So for me, I think if anyone's listening to this who understands what we're saying and wants to become more conscious and realize that they're kind of a victim of the subconscious mind, then the first step is presence. No one is present these days. I went to watch Dermot Kennedy last night, right? The woman in front of me sat there and played on Facebook, probably from the start to the finish, texting people, WhatsApping people. She's got one of the best live singers in the world in front of her, a stadium of 20,000 people, and she sat there on Facebook. She's not even in that stadium. Physically she is, but she's not really there. She's not present at all. So not only that, and I'm using that as an example because phones are our biggest culprit in terms of making people not present. Social media notifications. We're only having a very present conversation now because we're not distracted by our phones. If we were doing this and there's notifications going off, we're going to be distracted, right? So presence for me is where you can actually sit and think for a second. Just a bit of calm, yeah? So how do you become present? Turn all your notifications off on your phone. My phone is almost like a dead phone. It never goes off. It's on silent. If anyone rings me, probably get a missed call because unless they catch me and it's in my hand. Messages, the way I look at it, I decide on when I go into my phone and go into my applications. We could be talking here now if I had my phone on loud and notifications on, and John from down the road, the neighbour, wants to text me about some bullshit he wants to do next week. He's pinching my attention. I didn't ask him to just take my attention. He's just took it from me while I'm trying to have a conversation with you guys.
Especially the relationship you have to your phone as well.
Yeah.
If you know a notification, oh shit, I got to check your
Yeah.
latest. Yeah.
So that's the biggest culprit, I think, of people becoming non-present. So yeah, turn all your notifications off first thing to become present. Meditation, obviously, standard one to become present, because I guess even if you turn your notifications off, then your brain is still probably looking for stimulus, because we live in a attention deficit world. We live in this world where we're just always chasing stimulus. So learning meditation and teaching the mind how to become present, like it's such an underrated skill. Such an underrated skill. It's one of the things I probably pride myself on most, is being present. I'm here. I'm nowhere else. Right in this room with you two.
People probably appreciate that a lot as well when speaking to you.
Totally.
Like,
Totally.
especially with clients as well.
Oh, yeah. You've got to
not
be.
like the trainer who's, oh mate, just got a text from.
Yeah.
Nah, just like, mate, this is me and you. Here.
When my clients come in, they know the phone's out the way. And like, okay, we've all got our phones on the table. Well, I don't know the exact facts, but I've heard something along the lines of, we're already, just by these phones being on the table in front of us, we're already like 20% less present. Just because our subconscious is like knows it's there.
Yeah.
We should really
Imagine
if they weren't in the room right now, we'd probably be even more present.
True. Put them on.
Phones on the table. Let's see.
It's out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind. It's true.
So yeah,
That's great.
so yeah, phones, meditation, silence, man.
I love silence.
Proper silence or just silence?
Like I said, I started meditation, which has really helped me a lot. I just being silent, just sitting.
So when's the last time you done nothing? And I mean nothing.
Is that including with meditation?
No,
What
because
do
you're
you
doing
mean
something,
by-
right? So nothing meaning like literally nothing but just breathing.
When I was asleep.
Mate, it's a good.
Well, yeah.
But then you're probably dreaming. So like again,
I don't have an answer besides.
no,
Yeah,
mate,
I don't-
it
I
never
don't.
happens. We're always doing something, and I'm the first to say, look, I love being productive. I love being efficient. I love a fucking to-do list, but I also love silence and doing absolutely nothing just as much. And it's two polar opposite ends of the scale. But if you can master both ends of the scale, then you're onto a winner, I think, because again, we live in this world where we're constantly chasing stimulus. I've been a victim of stimulus most of my life. But now I force myself the other end of the scale and force myself to be present. So using this as an example with the High Caliber Men's Weekend last weekend, we went off for a walk in the fells, and we found this big tarn. So it's basically a big, massive pond/small lake, right? And I told the guys just to go off and sit and do nothing, right? 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 meters away from anyone else. I want you to sit and do nothing but breathe, right? It's strange what your mind does. First time I tried this, it was up top of a mountain, and I was by myself in my tent, and I just thought, I'm going to see how long I can sit for. So I literally set a timer on my watch, and I just sat there. About what I felt was half an hour went by. It was like 3 minutes. And then about 10 minutes into it, I realised I tied my shoelaces 5 times.
Realize what?
Tied my shoelaces 5 times. Like,
Oh, okay.
playing around with my shoes. My mind just wanted to do something, just to move and be stimulated. And I had nothing to do. So my shoelaces seemed to be the most entertaining thing at that time. So literally going and sitting and just doing nothing for as long as you possibly can, once a week, it's such a mentally refreshing exercise.
I'm trying to think when was the last time I actually just sat there and did nothing.
It feels funny. It feels weird.
Probably the other day. I did go on the swings by myself and I just sat there and just looked at the sky.
Yeah. That's another thing. Looking at the sky, I love that. So actually,
I like listening to the bird noises.
yeah. When I was at the tarn, I laid back and looked at the sky, and it almost humbles you because you just realise how small you are.
I think that's exactly how I felt. I was just like, my problems
Like,
really don't mean a lot.
Nah. It doesn't matter where you look, you can see nothing but sky. It's like, fucking, I'm such a minute little thing on this earth.
Yeah, I seen Hormozy. I don't know. He said he does it. Hormozy on Stephen, where he goes when he thinks about his problems and obviously how big they are, how stressful they are. He goes on Google Maps,
Zooms out,
zooms out, and he zooms out, and he zooms out, and then he realizes, oh, not that big.
That's
mad.
Yeah, no. So silence, man, it's an amazing thing to become present. But after presence. Linking all this in with becoming conscious. After presence, you then need self-awareness. So, kind of opening a bit of a can of worms here, you could go different directions, but really to self-awareness, to get that, you need to become present because you need to then analyze your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own actions, etc. And the way I look at it is your thoughts turn into emotions, your emotions turn into actions, your actions then dictate your results and all life. So your life is then kind of by default dictated by your thoughts. Most people just go through that process without thinking, very subconsciously, as we've talked about, right? If in my mind, I enter a question mark in between each of those. So thoughts, before they turn into actions, I put a question mark in there and I ask, okay, is that thought true or not?
Did you have to become conscious to think that?
Someone kind of taught me this and then I just started doing it. And in my mind, what I say is I install an analyzer in the back of my brain. So from this day forward, at some point in my life, I decided I'm going to just install a little analyzer in the back of my brain, which is going to analyze my thoughts, question mark. But then if that moves on to actions, I'm going to analyze, my emotions. I'm going to analyze my emotions. And then I'm going to analyze my actions. And then I'll reflect on my results. Okay. So it just slows that process down, makes me more conscious, essentially, you know, because self-awareness for me is probably the key to becoming conscious. Not only self-awareness, obviously you're aware of your environment and almost being able to look in at your life from a third person. It's very hard to analyze your own situation while you're in it.
Yeah.
You know, like talking about blind spots before, like that's probably your gateway to different results and to being growing as a person. And the kind of way I look at it is when you do start on this kind of journey of improving your consciousness and self-awareness, you've probably got a million things to learn about yourself. So it's dead easy to learn them. Everything triggers you. Everything stresses you out, which are two key things to realize areas of you that needs either healed or worked on. So everything triggers you, everything stresses you out. But as you heal all these, it's almost like a pyramid effect. So you're at the bottom of the pyramid and there's 100 things, let's say. As you move up, you've now only got 50, now you've now only got 25, and it goes narrower and narrower and narrower. And then at that point, it not only harder to spot things about yourself and learn things about yourself and find your blind spots, it takes longer and it takes more extreme things to be done. So for example, if you ask me, do you care what anyone else thinks about yourself? I'd be like, nah, don't care, right? Now, if I was to put percentages on it, 10% maybe does care, right? I think we can't fully get rid of that.
Yeah, I was about to say I agree.
But I'm going to use an example here of I found a blind spot of my own, which I didn't realize was there. Obviously, it was a blind spot. But for me to find that blind spot, I actually had to travel up to Glasgow. And this wasn't a conscious thought. I didn't realize I was going to find this blind spot. I was on a mentor's get together, and I was talking to a psychotherapist. Now there was a couple hundred coaches in the room, and we got to ask these psychotherapist questions. And I asked him, "How do you get in flow state like easier and more frequently?" And he answered me with a question, and he said, "When was the last time you were in flow state?" And I said, "Well, it was when I was traveling. I was living in my van. I was living in a camper van, traveled the UK." And he said, "Okay, what time of day was it?" I said, "It was," he said, "Give us like a ballpark." I said, "Between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. He said, "Okay, so that's the best time for you to get in flow state. If you were to give it a colour, what colour would you give it?" I said, "White." He said, "Is it light or is it heavy?" I'm thinking, fucking hell, I asked you a question. So I've got 200 people, other professionals in my industry looking at me, and he's asking me fucking what colour flow state is. So I'm like, I started almost getting a little bit, you know, we feel the blood rushing to your face and you're thinking, fucking hell, I'm getting a little bit embarrassed here. So the thoughts are, what if I say something stupid? So I answered the questions, everything was fine. Anyway, talking to him later on, I said to him, like, you know, I was asking about that situation, and he said, "Well, it's a fear of judgment." And I was like, "Well, how is it?" I said, "I don't care what people think about me." He says, well, when you were asking these questions, you felt yourself getting embarrassed. And what was the thoughts? I said, the thoughts were, I nearly felt embarrassed because I didn't want to say something stupid. So then my underlying of that is my fear of I might say something stupid and everyone might laugh at me. You know? So he highlighted a fear of judgment in me, which I didn't know was there. But for me to learn that one thing, which has changed my life, because I've now came away from that event with what I say, my mask removed. I care less about what people think. I had to travel to Glasgow, stay there for the weekend, ask a psychotherapist a question, just to find that one little thing. But it has changed my life because I've noticed since in myself, again, kind of reflecting on my results and everything, my VR self, my virtual reality self, I mean, who I put that out there online is even more me now. It's even more authentic, which I've seen the results from by people saying your fucking content's like miles better now. You know, so I've removed the layer, I've removed the mask of fear of judgment, and now I can be more myself.
So besides that, what was his answer to getting down to the flow state? After he asked you about what colour is the flow state?
Yeah, so I said white. He said, is it light? Is it heavy? He said, I said light. It was pretty much like things like removing distractions, obviously, but trying to put yourself in that situation again. So for me, from 11 p.m. till 3 a.m., don't know why it's that time, like no one's hitting my phone up, you know? No one else is kind of trying to get my attention. I'm super, super, super present. And I probably want to get a load done because it's between 11 and 3, you know? So for whatever reason, that's as far as I've got anyway, like as far as flow state goes. And it's something I'm working on, which I would like to get better at. Because if you could just switch flow state on, how good would that be?
Yeah, literally.
You know?
Yeah. Anytime and any day.
I think a lot of that comes down to being able to like switch your caps. So the current cap I've got on is professional, I would say.
Okay.
Myself, I've got my own cap. I've got my professional cap on. You know, when I'm with the lads, I've got maybe my relaxed, funny, laid back, jokey, banter cap on. When I'm with clients, I've got my very probably serious cap on, I'd maybe call it, because it's a serious job. We talk about mental health and goals and, you know, serious shit, right? So being able to switch caps, especially as being someone as self-employed, it's very, very important to get good at that. Because when you can't switch caps, you're almost always at work. Especially as we were talking about before, with people's jobs almost being linked to their identity. If you're self-employed and you can't switch off from work and you can't take that work cap off when you walk through that door at home, you're bringing work home with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that affects your relationships and everything else. So, yeah, switching caps is very important to get in a flow state.
Okay.
Do you know what I wanted to ask you? I was like, it brings back to the subconscious. I was like, a lot of people are living subconsciously. And I find it crazy because it's all on autopilot. But then I thought, do you need to become conscious to be successful?
Good question. I don't think you do.
Really?
No, because I think if you're very skillful, and, you know, I know a lot of subconscious rich people. So they literally wake up and they've got one goal and one thing they're good at, which is earning money.
Now you said that, it makes sense.
But have a look at them, because most of them people, in my mind, I can picture quite a few. They're overweight. They're miserable outside of the cash and bank, you know. The relationships are shit. Mental health's probably up and down. So yeah, like, I don't think you need to become conscious, but I definitely think it'll help.
So does consciousness lead to happiness? Because if you think about it like that, people that live subconsciously always seem to complain a lot as well.
You say lead to happiness as if it's an end destination, but really I think happiness comes and goes.
Okay.
And it's like a fleeting feeling. You don't just kind of wake up one day and say, right, I'm happy now.
True.
So happiness isn't a end destination, it's a state. Just as sadness is. I don't mind being vulnerable here. Okay, next question.
Why you always make me laugh for?
I don't mind being vulnerable here. I was in tears at Kennedy last night.
Oh yeah.
Crying. He fucking said a few words within songs which really got me thinking about things that brought emotion to the surface. I was probably upset about a couple of things which I maybe been couple of things I've probably done in the past where there's a little bit of regret and guilt. Things with my mum. She passed a couple of years ago. So there was like all these different emotions coming to the surface, which just brought kind of tears out, I guess. But that sadness there was followed very quickly by gratitude and happiness. And I was fucking loving it. I was happy as fuck. We actually went outside once the Dermot Kennedy show had finished. And I'll have to show you the video. There was this drummer outside, and he was the best drummer I've ever seen. He had a crowd, like, in this tunnel, absolutely having a rave. Just some random drummer, like a busker. Yeah. I've actually invited him to the next High Calibre Men's weekend. I want him to come and do the entertainment. So I was happy as fuck then. You know, it's a state. It's a feeling. Feelings come and go. So yeah, I think becoming conscious definitely will help to be in a state of happiness a lot more. Mm-hmm. Because becoming conscious, then you're going to be more self-aware. You'll be aware of your state. You'll be aware of how you feel. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people these days are unhappy, but they find pleasure and or kind of dumb that unhappy feeling down by either eating nice tasting food, which generally leads them to being overweight, whether it's alcohol, drugs, porn, gambling, social media. Like, I often explain to clients about the pain-pleasure balance, and we all have it within us, where if you're in a state of pain internally, however kind of small or large, then at some point it's going to have to find homeostasis and reset that balance, and it's only going to do that with pleasure. This day and age, it's food, porn, gambling, drink, drugs, and social media, getting them little dopamine hits to make you feel good again. So I really believe now, like, we all have that one thing. I call it's that thing. And you usually go to one or some, if you've had trauma and a hard upbringing, it's maybe a few. So for me personally, it was binge drinking. That was my thing. You could put me in a all-you-can-eat buffet, absolutely starving, and I'll fast. Doesn't bother us. I've got huge conscious control over that, over my food. Gambling, you could give us 50 quid and like I've got 50 quid for free, right? Some people will be like, well, that's free money. I can then gamble it and win more money. I just pocket the 50 quid and go and enjoy it. Yeah. I've got no intentions, no urge at all to gamble. Porn, drugs, etc. Like, we all have our own thing, you know. And I think
your thing was
binge drinking, yeah.
Binge drinking.
Yeah.
I'll say mine's TikTok, guys.
Audible, mate. Audible thing, TikTok. Horrible thing. Like, great, mate. Like,
you know, even when you go and post a reel once you're on it, it's like you gotta wait for it to upload. So then you like swipe for your video,
because you actually can't come off the app until it's uploaded.
I feel like they did that intentionally. You know?
Mate, my nephew. Okay, I'll tell you two things now. My nephew showed me a TikTok the other day, and it was a split screen, and it was two videos playing at once. This blew my fucking mind because. I tell you, no, mate.
I think I know what you're going to say.
This is like important shit, mate. I'm telling you, because if your brain, as a stimulus, from a stimulus perspective, gets used to two videos playing at once, well, now a film is boring. Now, having a one-to-one conversation is boring, right? You've raised your kind of baseline of stimulus, right? Yeah. When you're away from TikTok, watching TV is boring. Going to the cinema is boring because it's not two, it's just one, right? But then when you can't kind of get that stimulus, or your brain now starts searching for the next stimulus, well, cocaine, fucking fantastic stimulus. I know we're talking about like kids on TikTok here, but as they grow older,
they'll be searching for it.
Drugs, drink, hardcore porn, these are all huge levels of dopamine which you'll get by watching and doing those activities, the same as watching two videos on TikTok. You know what I mean? So we have to be very careful. And this is what I said before. Our generation is so important for our next generation, because our kids and the youngsters these days, they're just going to buzz off it. Well, I can watch two videos at once. I'm being more productive or whatever. They don't know what's going on. They're just on TikTok. They just want to chill and be entertained. So it's our duty to tell them the effects of it all. Because we're breeding a generation of ADHD-riddled, poor mental health, addicted people. Hopefully, Russia doesn't kick off and we have to send them to war because they're not going to be any good.
Send the war with the iPads.
They'll be sat there on the phones while they're getting bombed.
All right, I got a serious question now. Because when I was saying to my mum the other day, like, I was looking at my brother on his tablet. I'm saying, yo, you will never know about the days of, come out. Or even the days like after school, we'll be like, yo,
let's go park.
Let's go park.
Yeah.
Because like now it's like, let's go home and play Fortnite. Do you fear kids will basically become victims of social media and like attention? As I said, attention span is already 0 to none. Every kid now, pretty much 3 years old or when they can use one, has one. And I noticed my brother has started to watch YouTube Shorts, which I'm worried about because he just, and it's crazy.
It's mad though, because you don't even need like an iPad or a phone to watch YouTube Shorts. You can watch it on your TV.
That's what we're watching it on.
I found my nephew and niece watch it. He was like, oh, look at this YouTube short. I'm like, you don't have a phone, bro. He goes, no, it's on the TV. I said, raw.
They get views, Yeah,
they get views.
Yeah, man.
Like, wow.
I don't fear it, like, because I think
don't fear it?
No, I mean, I don't fear the effects of social media. It's like it's happening now. It's already happened.
That's debatable though, because when we didn't grow up with an iPad, whereas these kids literally grow up with an iPad. 3 years old, they've got an iPad. Just so they stop crying or they have something to watch. And they don't even understand what's actually going on.
No.
Whereas we didn't have social media like that. Like when I was 11, we had like a BlackBerry. It wasn't like an iPhone that you can swipe on TikTok. So it's different.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I would say
So I feel like the
still
effects,
adjusting.
yeah. So I feel like their effects will be different to what we get affected by.
100%, yeah. Our, obviously, subconscious mind has already been formed without social media. But I am a big believer in the subconscious mind being very programmable. So I look at my dad. My dad's 74. I was having a conversation with him. He's having a conversation with him the other day, and his phone went off, and I was quite surprised. He almost stopped talking to me and picked out his phone, and his attention was robbed by his phone. And I thought, wow, even you're being affected by it now.
Ah, I see.
He's 74. He's only got an iPhone 6 or something, But he...
That home button.
yeah, pretty much. Even he's becoming less present. And I know we were in the middle of a conversation. It was his subconscious mind just programmed him to take his phone out and look at it. And if for the kids getting brought up with that, it's their parents' duty to be aware of the effects and put things in place. It's too easy these days just to say, get on the iPad, it's as a parent, it's almost like a cop-out to stop parenting them. Like, I don't have kids, and I know if I did, my kids would probably get bullied because they'd be that different.
How would you raise them?
Good question.
Put it this way, I wouldn't repeat myself twice. If I say something, do it. More than twice, I should say. So I've got nephews, and the amount of times my brother has to repeat himself to tell the kids to do something, like, I just watch it and I just think, nah, I couldn't do it. And I guess I analyse that, and the way I look at it is, when he says something, don't do this or don't do that, he's obviously saying it for their benefit, but they don't value his words enough to stop doing it until he has to shout and scream and kick off or take the phone off them and punish them. So for me, I would, I guess, be strict, but I'd want to get them out of them, if that makes sense. I wouldn't impose me onto them, but they would learn from my self-awareness, learn from my mistakes and experiences, and I'd want them to almost become their own person, obviously, but I would want to nurture that out of them without the distractions of social media, without the influences of environment. I definitely would not be saying, because you're kicking off, and you won't listen to what I'm saying and you won't shut up, I'm just going to give you your iPad. That's what I would not do.
Okay. All right, then I've got a question for everyone on this table. Well, there's only 2 hours. But this is something I do think about. I have an answer, and I do believe my answer is, as I said, it's a subjective thing. So the question is, what do you believe is a man?
Oh.
It is very subjective because your version of a man might be different from mine. My version might be different for you, and so on.
A man is, I would guess, I say, the first thing that comes to mind is male.
Is what, sorry?
Male.
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 Oh, male. Oh, sorry. Wait, you said it's the accent. It's
my accent, yeah.
I heard meal.
I heard what you heard, but I understand.
Male.
No. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A man is male.
Okay.
That's what comes to my mind.
That's
A
the
man
first
has a
one.
penis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man has biceps. You're not a man if you don't have biceps.
Just off topic, do you guys believe in this stuff, like transgender stuff? I'm happy to talk about it.
Do I believe in it?
I'm passionate about this. I don't mind talking about it.
I feel like if that's your world, that's your world. That's how I feel.
I'm more scared because I'm thinking, how are they telling kids you don't know what you are? That you're not feeling like the crazy sending your kid to a place where they say you're born a boy, but you could be a girl. I think that's crazy.
Yeah, at that point, it's like kids can't be making those decisions.
There's stories and reports now in America I remember a story, there was a lesbian couple who had a child, whether it was adopted or fostered or whatever, I don't know. But this boy decided at the age of 12 or something that he wanted to become a girl. So the parents actually thought through it, what do we do? Got help, etc., and really tried to make a conscious decision. The decision was to let the child go ahead and change. The child then changed to a girl, ended up becoming miserable, depressed, overweight, and at the age of 18 decided to sue the parents because she realised I was just a kid and I was confused. Now, my issue with this whole transgender world, if you like, and kind of, there's 112 genders now, isn't there?
112.
112?
Yeah.
You sounded
I only know 2 of them. I only know 2 of them.
There's 112. Now, let me firstly make very, very clear.
They got avatars now or something.
Yeah, exactly, mate, right? Let me make very, very clear. And I'm looking at this from a mental health perspective.
Yeah.
I think that each to their own, 100%. You, as a human, have a human right to live your life on your terms. And no one else really should get involved in that. However, what I don't like is when people who want to live their life differently push it on other people, right? So if I'm a male, I am a male, by the way. I identify as a male. I have that right, if I want to change to a female on a Monday, male on Tuesday, female Wednesday, and I have that right to do that. But if I then look at yous and say, like, yous need to kind of get on board with me and live life how I do, that's where I have a problem, because I'm now influencing you when you didn't really probably have that thought to start with. So I'm going to give you an example of, I know a child who in his class had a boy turn into a girl, and this is the age of 11. And the child I know very well, and I care for this child. I have care for the child anyway. Now, a lot of mums will say, yeah, but that doesn't affect your child, so it's all right if this guy turns to a girl, etc., right? But as a person, let's say in that classroom, it's very hard to not question your own gender when your friend, who is pretty much just a mirror image of you, parents, same school, same area, was brought up in the same place, etc., etc. It's very hard to not question your own gender it's almost impossible, I would say, to not question your own gender when your friend who was a mirror image of you just decided to change overnight. I personally believe that when people are changing genders left, right, and centre, identifying it, this and that, and all these different things under the sun, I think it's mass confusion in their own mind of who they are. I'm actually considering to do a study on this, like legit.
Oh, for real.
I want to analyse different genders and the rate of mental health issues within each gender. So take straight people, take gay people, take non-binary, take transgender, check whatever, right? Maybe take the top 5 to 10.
Do you reckon there's some external factors such as those who have mum and dad, for example?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. How that affects, I don't know. But I guess what really kind of just annoys me is that they're pushing it on other people.
That annoys
Like,
me as well, to be fair.
Sorry.
That annoys me as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially children.
so if I identify,
Who are most vulnerable to that?
I visually look like a male right now, but if I identify as a woman, I can't have a go at you two for not understanding that. For me, just the way I think, I'd wear a little badge saying I identify as a woman. So then if you see that badge and still call me a man, okay, I can get pissed off at you now because you've just ignored my badge.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because there was a video of in America, obviously, of a college professor, and he says, "Ma'am," and then she goes, I don't know if it's a he. She goes, she identifies as a he, but obviously he's like, yo, from what I'm seeing woman features, nothing masculine about you.
Yeah.
You are a man. You have breasts which are visible to everyone to see.
Yeah.
You don't have, like I said, a sign. And then she must have stood on the table and screamed, "I am a man." And then I just think,
Yeah.
you're not. Like,
Identity confusion.
you're not. Because like I said, if we were all stripped naked, and you looked at physical features, if you've seen a penis or not, that you would know that is a man.
100%.
Or if that isn't a man. Now, I don't agree with this transgender thing. I just feel like it should be.
I understand people kind of switching. Like I know people that got brought up as a female and now they're a male. Doing one switch and owning that, and then like, no, you know what? I've always felt funny. I've always been more masculine because we've all got masculine and feminine in us. Yeah. And some, as we all know, no doubt, some females will be a bit more masculine. Some males will be a bit more feminine, right? So doing kind of one switch and then owning that, I think, okay, you're probably not that confused anymore. You're now, this is obviously speaking generally, but you're now who you feel you are. But changing every day of the week to different genders all over the place, Monday I'm this, Tuesday I'm that, Wednesday I'm this, you're clearly confused. But then, like, what's actually going on in their mind? It's, in my opinion, I can't help but think it's a mental illness. I know that sounds harsh. I can't picture it any other way. Because they clearly don't know who they are. The way they view themselves is very confused, in my opinion.
I think it's a very broad.
And then, just to kind of tag on, I guess, the guy who's at the top of the tree with all this, Sam Smith.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I don't really know much about it, but I've heard how he's come out as like is it a lady?
Them. He
Yeah.
identifies as them. He's not male. He's not female. He's them.
So please
as if he is more than one thing, more than one gender. He's them.
He's them. Who's them?
As in, that's what he identifies.
He identifies as them.
Have you not seen the
More
clip?
than one.
Have you not seen the clip where, I don't know who he was talking to, what show it was on?
Fisher them.
Yeah. So they asked him if he likes to go fishing, and they must have referred to.
He nearly
him
said
as a-
fisherman.
he nearly referred to himself as a fisherman,
Who said that?
Sam Smith.
Yeah.
But he identifies as a them, so he can't be a fisherman.
Yeah.
What did he say?
So
Am I
he
Fisher
said
then?
fisher them.
Yeah. Like,
It was just all over social media.
let's play devil's advocate. Let's try and get on the way of thinking of Sam Smith, right? Well, firstly, physically, as we said before, physically, he's probably the borderline diabetes. I'll be surprised if he gets over 60.
Okay.
It's legit. I can say that because I've worked with these thousands of people in his physical shape.
Yeah.
So that says a lot about his mental health.
Yeah.
Says a lot about his self-love, his self-respect. Someone who's really overweight, which he is, doesn't respect their body, doesn't have a lot of self-love. But what he'll do is shout from the rooftops how he owns his body. I'm just owning my body.
I've got a good question.
Body confidence. Fuck off, mate.
That's about to say. The models that you see who are big, do you think, and I hate when people say, but that is body positivity.
Mate.
Do you think that's a whole load of BS?
Yeah, 100%. So when someone's overweight, and I'm not, look, overweight's a term which can be many different things. So I want to get accurate on the actual description and what I'm referring to here. Overweight could be just like, a bit of love handles, a bit of body fat. Like that's nothing major. It's not going to affect life in that much degree, right? I'm talking about being unhealthily overweight, right? Let's picture someone who's unhealthily overweight. In rare circumstances, they may have underlying issues, thyroid problems, physical illnesses that kind of, they have to take steroids and that then affects their weight, etc. Totally get all that. But generally speaking, I think someone who is unhealthily overweight has a very, very low self-love for themselves. They are abusing the one thing that is keeping them alive, which is their body. They're abusing it. I can't see it any other way. I can't see it or say it any other way. So not only are they lacking in self-love and self-respect, they're lacking probably in motivation, self-belief. Their view of themselves is likely very shitty, otherwise they wouldn't do it. No, people will talk about body positivity and owning their body and this is just who I am. It's a fucking cop-out. It's now, I'm happy being fat. Some people will, okay. I don't like talking in absolutes and kind of everyone. I never really say everyone. Try not to anyway. Some people will, and I'm happy for them. Genuinely are happy for them. But trying to spread the message of you're okay fat is not a good idea.
Yeah, I've always thought people who say like, oh yeah, it's good to be fat, happy to be fat. I've always said, so why aren't you even fatter? Like, why haven't you thought to be the fattest? Like, since being fat is really positive, why don't you be the biggest, fattest person you can be? And then tell me at the end, this is positivity.
You've said that to me before, and I thought that is true.
It's true.
Who gets a really happy feeling getting out of breath, walking upstairs, not being able to play with the kids? Who gets a happy feeling having chest pain because of fucking ran across the street because a bus was coming? You know what I mean?
That's a great analogy.
So who gets to the other side of the street, way out of breath, thinking I'm fucking happy as out?
True though.
Mate,
True.
you know what I mean?
True.
Like, but then let's play devil's advocate. I really like to keep things in context. Let's go to the other end of the scale. Then people that are obsessed with looking their best. There's downfalls to that as well. I've known people who are in ridiculously good shape physically, but mentally they're really unhealthy. And
what counts as ridiculously good shape?
Interpret
because
for me.
In terms of like bodybuilders, that's low body fat.
Yeah.
Technically, that's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. To a degree, yeah, definitely. I think, obviously, in my eyes, there's a scale for everything. Mm-hmm. You know, let's take bodybuilders one end, obese the other. Like, if you're at either end, it's unhealthy. And I've always said, it doesn't matter what scale it is, the sweet spot will 9 times out of 10 be in the middle. So, what was the question again, sorry? What's...
I think he was about to say devil's advocate for...
So devil's advocate for someone who's like obsessed with the way they look. That's probably unhealthy as well, more mentally than anything. Yeah. Physically, to a degree, yeah, it's better than being obese. But mentally, it's probably unhealthy. Well, it is unhealthy because then really, like, what other areas of life are you sacrificing? Like, I know a lot of guys that are in physically really good shape, but they literally can't walk past the mirror without looking at themselves. They've got really bad body complexes. You know, so it's like they put that much effort into their physical body they probably are sacrificing other areas of life. And I guess it comes down to kind of how extreme they're going with it. But I know a lot of lads, especially, and to me, to be honest, for me as well, to a degree, I started training because I was probably insecure of being small. I'm not fucking 6 foot tall, you know what I mean? So I want to be a little bit wider. I haven't got the height game, which I can't do anything about. So I'll just get in fucking class shape. So I guess a lot of lads do start on that journey from like insecurity and what I would call like a dark energy, whether it's insecurity, whether it's being bullied, whether it's like for me, I used to play on the wing in rugby, but I just fucking get picked up and threw out in a touch, you know what I mean? So like I need to start the gym or something, like you can fight back a little bit. Yeah. But then that kind of, if that compounds and continually improves, not continually improves, sorry, if that compounds and continues in that direction, it does end up being a body complex. So yeah, the sweet spot for me is always in the middle.
Have you ever experienced someone come to you and be like, they've got body dysmorphia? Where it's like they used to be fat or slightly overweight, they lost a bit of weight, but now it's kind of, they still feel fat and they want to get skinnier.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where it's like, if you get skinnier, it's unhealthy.
Yeah, loads. It's really hard to change that because it's a mind problem, not a physical problem. To be honest, I think everything's a mind problem. Obesity is not a physical problem, it's a mind problem. What I've just been talking about there about, let's say a bodybuilders that can't stop training, it's a mind problem.
True.
They're that insecure in themselves as a person, they, get biceps and lats and chest to improve their confidence. It kind of, both extremes, the scale is never a good thing. But yeah, it's always a mind problem. It's always a mind problem, always. Because the mind controls the body.
Sure.
So yeah, it's always a mind problem, which is hard to fix. And again, linking in kind of what I said before about self-awareness, blind spots, consciousness, that person probably didn't consciously put themselves there. So I would argue the case, they very likely cannot get them out of that themselves out of that place unless they start thinking a different way, which I can often give them. I give them that other perspective and the other flip side of the coin they're not currently seeing. I was basically saying, you guys starting young kind of remind me of where I was when I first started the food business. I was in there like early on, so you guys are starting in the podcast game early on. But when I first started my food business, it was before meal prep businesses, and meal prep was a thing. So I was one of the first doing it, right? And I had this plan to take down McDonald's because me just being me, young 22-year-old creativity mind through the roof, think I'm capable of anything. I went and watched the McDonald's film. Now, McDonald's got so successful by a few different reasons, but if you look at what they've got going for them, it's convenient, it's quick, it's tasty, good price. Now, how they actually got so many stores, because originally it was obviously two brothers and they didn't do franchises. They knew, and they did have a go, but it went downhill. People started selling hot dogs in different states. They're like, why are you selling hot dogs? That's not our brand, that type of stuff. So they kind of brought it back and it was all owned in-house, which I think now they do franchises, but they get given a template, you've got to do this. So essentially what they would do is look at a really busy, successful restaurant. Say, okay, well, they must be in a good location. People are traveling to that restaurant. It's doing very well. Let's open up over the road. Let's be quicker. Let's be tastier. Let's beat them on price and have a fucking drive-through. Don't even have to get out the car. So when there's that, all the customers just went from there to there. So the previous restaurant had done the hard work by getting the footfall, choosing the location, doing all the, they just open up opposite. So I was basically going to do and use their tactic on them. I was going to go and open opposite McDonald's, wherever McDonald's are, right? Now, I think part of the biggest clientele of McDonald's is boy racers. Am I right in saying around here, it doesn't matter where, boy racers in the cars? Where I live, doesn't matter what McDonald's it is, there's always boy racers there, everyone hanging around in the cars, right?
Yeah, that is true.
So if I could open up opposite McDonald's, be just as quick, just as convenient, price-wise the same, but healthy, and then use sex appeal to win the customers,
Okay.
I think I'd win.
I
So
would say you would win, yeah.
McDonald's, it's almost a bit of a, I know, to a degree, a bit of a joke that he works in McDonald's. Yeah, not very intelligent, not a very good job. Well, that's debatable. Yeah, not for this probably topic of conversation. But let's go with that theory that it's not a very good job. Over the road, if I paid more to the staff, I could even maybe take the staff as well. But I'd like to kind of go back to the olden days almost, where girls would deliver the food to their cars on roller skates.
Okay.
Just a bit of a gimmick.
That'd
But
be
then
nice.
the guys would work on the inside of the restaurant. So maybe girls would go in and sit in. And then guys, all the boy racers driving around in their cars, would park outside and get the girls to deliver on roller skates.
Do you think you'll receive any backlash for that?
I'll throw in a couple of transgenders and I should be all right.
Do you know what I was gonna say though? If your food is healthier, that means it doesn't taste as good.
I proved that wrong when I had the food business because our food was fucking banging. Like,
Yeah.
restaurant quality in a container. Like, no, it was top notch.
Okay.
Plus, I'd probably, just me being me, have little signs around the restaurant, having little digs at McDonald's, like, because it's obviously a competitive world. And really, I'm openly saying I'm going to pinch their customers and probably staff as well. So I'd want signs of like getting people to think, linking all this in with what we talked about before, differently of how do you feel before McDonald's and how do you feel after the McDonald's? How do you feel before one of my meals and after one of my meals? Because going back to food and nutrition in general, I really believe that when you have some food or you have a meal, you want to feel exactly as you felt, if not better, afterwards compared to what you did before. A lot of people will eat, they'll get lethargic, they'll get tired, they get brain fog, burp and fart and whatever, and think that's normal. That's not normal. You know, I really look at food as, will this make me feel better than what I currently do and or the same? And if I don't, then I probably won't eat it. Or I won't eat it again. So like McDonald's breakfast, I love McDonald's breakfast. Taste, 10 out of 10. How I feel afterwards, in terms of like 1 being great, 10 being awful, I'm on 11.
Damn.
Mate, to the point where like,
Nah, I do feel you like after you think about it, like it's just,
mate, I feel terrible. Like, because again, self-awareness, in tune with your body and stuff, you start analysing how you feel after your vet. And if I don't feel good after a vet, I'm going to look at that previous meal and think, what is in that doesn't agree with me? My digestive system, my guts, whatever. There's something in that doesn't agree with me. So I'm going to take it out and try and kind of find it. There was, me and my mates, we used to go and jump in the sea every Friday. We've done this for a year. Every Friday morning, get up at 6:30 in the morning. We go down, jump in the freezing cold sea, right? This was before cold water swimming was a thing and cold water dips and cold showers and stuff. So we'd go and do this every Friday. And the kind of tradition was, we'll go and do that. We're going to have a Mackey's breakfast. Now, I also at the time had a mentorship call at like 9 a.m. in the morning. And I'd find myself falling asleep on this mentorship call, but I've just been jumping in the freezing cold lake. I'm buzzing. I was full of energy. But I'm sat there half an hour later falling asleep. I'm thinking, something's not right here. So one time we missed the sea dips and we didn't go in. Got on my call. I was fucking fine. I thought, strange. So it's either the sea dips that's making me feel tired, which is very unlikely, or it's McDonald's breakfast. So the next time I done the sea dip, missed McDonald's breakfast, when I done my call, I was fine, wide awake, buzzing with energy, alert as fuck. So I realised by process of elimination, it was the McDonald's breakfast that was making me feel shit. Literally like to the brain fog to the max, almost headachy. You know what I mean? That's obviously a little bit more of extreme sort of situation and times, extreme circumstance or what's the word? Experience of feeling bad. But that on a micro level, it's the same like for any food. Do you feel good or not? You know? Yeah, so that's that.
I got a quick question. How much sleep do you get?
Right now, I could easily sleep 10 hours. Currently, I'm strength training. So I feel when I strength train,
Yeah.
I need more sleep. And it's probably because strength training trains the central nervous system. It's more taxing on the body compared to hypertrophy training, for example, muscle building training. So now I could easily do 10 hours. Not a long time ago, I was operating very, very well on about 6. And I think quality is more important than quantity. And sleep is such a fucking boring topic.
Very.
Boring. My clients tell me, how do I get more energy? Drink more water. It's the last answer they want to know. They want to know about some supplement or some crazy skill they never heard before. And like, drink more water. It's like, fucking in one ear, out the other. But it's true. Same with sleep. It's such a boring topic. But when you get good sleep and you realize what feeling good feels like, you'll always then look at your sleep. Like, we were talking about this at the High Caliber Men's Weekend, about like superpowers. It's a common question you like maybe ask someone, or what if you had a superpower, what would it be? Mine would be to not need sleep.
I always said this. I always thought to myself.
Imagine how much you could get done.
I said this to my girl. I was like, yo, I reckon in the future, do you reckon they'll just give you a pill and you just wouldn't need to sleep for 8 hours? Like, but I always thought there has to be consequences.
Oh yeah.
Just because it's natural for us to
Yeah,
sleep.
yeah,
But
yeah.
if it was a superpower, I'd like, yo, no sleep, I'd get so much shit done.
Oh yeah.
Think about
So,
it. The days,
mate,
the times
imagine
when
never
people
being
are-
tired.
People are sleeping as well. Like, that's the best time to work. No distractions.
Floor state, right? 11 p.m. till 3 a.m.
No distractions.
But at
Yeah,
the same
yeah.
time, I feel like there's no time to relax. Because when you sleep, you're like, okay, good, I'm reset.
Exactly. So
But if that need isn't there, then it won't matter.
True.
Yeah, but wouldn't you be almost, think about it like this? Because I'm guessing we all have high workloads. Wouldn't you be like 5 times more stimulated? Because you're constantly doing something.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
Because you would
Potentially.
never have like a chance to actually. Because at the end of the night, when you go to bed, you think, yo, that's it now. Like, yo, a
This is what I
breather,
mean.
a
This
fresh
is what I mean.
restart.
Well, you said that at the end of the night, which links to time. But time is almost man-made. There's no such thing, isn't there? Right? And I mentioned before about Dermot Kennedy, the show last night. He sang this song and he was talking about moments passing. So when I first came and met you today, we'll never get that moment again.
That is true. When I met you on the steps.
We're sat here right now having this conversation. We'll never get this moment again. When, you know, in an hour's time, when it's all done and dusted and I'm driving home or whatever, this is gone,
True.
right? So linking this in with time being kind of non-existent, and, you know, I'm sat here wearing a watch, but if you can kind of disengage from time, I think you almost, again, become present. So you mentioned there about sleeping and at the end of the day. Well, is it the end of the day? Is it the start of the day? Is it the middle of the day? Like, what is it? So if time's not a thing, all you've got is the present moment. Life's a little bit easier, I think.
It's funny you say that. I seen one guy on Instagram and he was just like, time don't exist to me. In 24 hours, it's funny, yeah. In 24 hours, I have 3 days. I was like, what? He goes, from 6 to 12, that's 1 day. And from 12 to 6, that's another. And I was just like, what are you getting at? Yeah, what are you getting at? Then he goes, if I perceive it like this, technically I'm 3 days ahead of you on your 1 day. Because he separates his tasks in his 3 days or
So he's
whatever.
efficient with his
Yeah.
time, yeah.
That's a very interesting.
Yeah, that's good. We in regards to time, I recently, like, I'm going down the spiritual route at the minute to find my blind spots. My environment doesn't really set me up for finding my blind spots. It's very hard, as I said before, to kind of find them the more self-developed you come. So I'm going down the spiritual route now, and I've done this ceremony called Kambo. It's actually, I'll show you. So see them
Is that the pokes there?
little dots on there?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like the Kambo sign. Like, basically, what I realized after I got that done, I lost the anxiety I got from time. So let's say, for example, I woke up in the morning and sorry, it's me.
That's it.
So I lost the anxiety I got from time. So let's say I wake up in the morning and first thing I do, probably check the time, because I don't often sleep with an alarm clock. I just wake up when I'm rested. So I check the time, let's say it's 7 a.m. Almost immediately, my mind is put me in a place in the day. You know, it's 7 a.m. It's late morning, early morning, depending on how you look at it. I've got an appointment at 1, 4. I've got to go to martial arts at 7. I'm in space and time, right? Where since I've done that, I kind of don't get that anymore. It just is what it is. Now, I've also recently, when I'm in the gym, took my watch off, because not only was I attached to training for an hour, which most people do, and almost time then dictates the quality of workout, which is bullshit. So I took my watch off and I just trained pretty much until I couldn't fucking train anymore, until I was satisfied and I wanted to leave. I've been in there for an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. I had some of the best workouts yesterday, trained shoulders and arms. My bird phoned us and was like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine, why?" "Oh, you've been in there a long time." I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm just training, I'm finishing off." But if I was, and I had a meeting at 1 o'clock, okay, there's a degree of, you're going to have to set an alarm maybe so you don't run over time. But when you detach from time, I think you become more peaceful. That anxiety goes, you know? So yeah, interesting. But
It kind of is a create pressure, because like when you think of time, you do set like tasks and deadlines based on the time. And,
yeah. You've got another podcast of this 3 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
You have to do that.
1:30.
Okay, so we're on the clock.
Yeah.
Imagine if we had all day, just fucking relax, chill out. Got nowhere to be. Like, when's the last time you had nowhere to be and nothing to do?
Can't remember.
That's the world we live in.
Sometimes I do just think, yo, I was able to stop this all.
I love.
I was able to stop this all, man.
I love just like in where I'm from, obviously in the lakes, just going and standing by the lake and just telling myself, got nowhere to be, nothing to do.
Just having a clear day, imagine.
It's clear day, clear mind, clear life.
Okay. Moving on from this topic. Back to the original topic, which we discussed probably like half an hour ago. What does it mean to be a man? A question for both of you guys. Would you like me to introduce it?
Go on, go first.
Oh, I forgot for a second. So,
Are we talking like traits and
yeah. So,
characteristics and stuff?
currently, I believe when I say I'm a young man, meaning a young man progressing from being a young man as in developing stages to becoming a man.
Okay.
And now say my idea of a man is first things first, masculine. I want to be masculine in the presence, as in you look at him, physically he's strong, mentally he's there. And I want to say financially, just know he's got himself and he can probably take care of his family, and also he can build. I'm a young man, so I believe I'm currently focusing on myself to get to the best version, to become myself, to become a man. That is what I believe is a man. For me to get that ideology of man, I've had to look at many men, successful and non-successful, and the one which I say I would like to be like him are the ones who have that strong presence, who can build, who do take care. And I've noticed in a lot of successful men, I'm not going to say successful, I mean, doesn't mean they have billions, or they could have millions or a couple of thousand. Or even like the ones who go on, you see this on the internet, they all have a decent, strong figure.
Okay.
And that was the first foundation for me to becoming a man, is to build that physical presence. Because like you said, when you walked in here, you just look at you and you think, Kieran's a man. The physical presence. If another guy walked in here, he was skinny, I'd be like, it's a boy. I'm just being genuinely serious. Like, if you came in here, if you was like me a bit, I'd think, okay, you're just a boy.
I hear you, though.
But when I
hear
see
you.
a guy massive and everything, like, yo, that's a man, like.
Okay, just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of massive, physically masculine men, which inside they are insecure boys.
Okay, now.
But then you might get
They might
someone
not,
who looks like a stereotypical computer geek, skinny, never lifted a weight in his life, but is courageous and brave and owns his shit and knows who he is and is loyal and honest and all that, right? So, like, what is a man? That is a fucking very good question, yeah?
It's very suggestive. That's what I'm saying. A man is for me is someone that has a strong presence. I would say good
I'm going to
morals.
give you an answer, right?
Go on.
Which I like to think I am.
Don't forget, this is Your perspective.
Yeah.
Your perspective.
So-
on man, yeah.
As I mentioned before, I think there's a scale for everything. I'm at the end of every scale.
Not in the middle.
Okay, I live in the middle, but I can be at the end
Okay.
at any time I choose. So you have to say you've got happiness and unhappiness, okay? Relative, different situations. One time you'll be at this side of the scale, one time you'll be that side of the scale. Loyal and unloyal. I choose where I'm at on that scale.
Okay.
Honest, dishonest. I can be fierce and nasty, but I can be kind and caring. I can be relentless with work, with anything I do. I can also do nothing, sit in silence. I can be productive and I can sit in silence. I can be at any I can be at both ends of the scale, of any scale, at any time I choose. Does that make sense? A
Yeah.
well-rounded man.
Okay, that's interesting. Because to
So
me,
you, is that what our man is?
That's apart from male and all the other stuff. To a degree, yeah, because if I was to kind of put actual words onto paper, I would say he has to be a leader. He has to lead from the front. He has to be the example. He has to set the standard. He has to take on the physical challenges compared to a woman who maybe can't. He, in this day and age, I think he would benefit from, I wasn't going to say should, but benefit from being open and vulnerable. I think that's a good masculine trait, which in the past probably got frowned upon because it was like man up and get on with it. Being loyal and honest and taking responsibility. I think as a man, you should take responsibility. I teach my clients to take 110% responsibility for their life. Because when you take 110% responsibility for your life, it's now, the buck starts and stops with you. You can stop pointing fingers at everything and everyone else. Oh, my upbringing wasn't good. So what? Like, that's the situation. This is your life. This is your life. You know what I mean? Like, take responsibility for it instead of blaming other things and other people. And that's probably the first step, as I said, I think I said before, to changing and becoming more conscious, improving your mental health and moving forward as a person. So yeah, I think being able to be at either end of the scale, whatever scale that is a high caliber man.
okay.
I like that. What about you, sir?
I feel like mine's different to everyone's, yeah. I feel like a man, as long as you are the decision maker, like the ultimate decision maker. I'm not talking, we're eating here and this is the only place we're eating. That's, anyone can decide that. You girl can decide whatever. I'm talking like if you're going to take a financial risk, like the household risk, you ultimately have the decision. Obviously, a good leader listens to other people's opinions, but you make the ultimate decision. A man is someone who provides financially, just in every area possible, takes care of the house. I'm not talking cleaning, but making sure that everyone in the house is okay, feeling all right. Caring and just, yeah, that's, to me, that's a man. But I feel like that's very broad. And I feel like anyone can achieve that. Even a woman could achieve that. In this day and age, anyway.
I think comparing kind of a man to woman, like looking at the different natures of nature of a man, nature of a woman, women are naturally more emotional. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
again, I'm going to be vulnerable here. When I was getting upset last night, my missus was like cuddling us and like kind of being there for me, like holding space for us, as some people would say, and comforting me is what I was looking for there. And I think as a man, yeah, there's a part of being masculine, taking responsibility and all the other stuff. But when emotional challenge is upon us, a man probably doesn't feel any safer than in a woman's arms. I know that's for me anyway.
I agree with that.
Probably goes back to our mums. I think like when things are getting us down as men, the most safest place is in a woman's arms, especially if it's someone who loves you and you know that they love you, you know? So with women being more kind of emotional, I think they can provide that emotional support better than a man would, especially to children. But then, okay, let's sort of flip the scales. Well, physically, men are always going to be superior to women.
True.
Unless you're transgender. Then it's going to be like, then it's like, fucking hell, who knows who's in charge? So men are always going to be physically superior. So any physical challenge should be the man's job, really, the man's role.
See, it's debatable, because if you're a man, you come home and your child is unhappy, and obviously you're there to care for him as a man. You're here to protect your child. He's emotionally unhappy. You ask why. He's gone, something's happened at school, blah, 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 blah. As a man, I feel like I should take care of that, especially if it's another boy upsetting him. Whereas, cool, it's an emotional situation. I wouldn't make the mother handle that. Like, she could, but I feel like I should be the one to step in.
I think it's very hard to answer that question without giving kind of situations and scenarios. Like, you've given a little scenario there, like, you know, a kid maybe getting bullied at school or whatever. If it was like a physical thing, yeah, like the man would probably be better dealing with that. But then, like, how many couples are out there where the female is more masculine than the male? There's probably tons.
But this is what I mean. This is why I was like, anyone could be a man, but isn't being a man just being masculine?
I would say being a man's I would say it's very subjective, as in like as we
This is what I mean.
As we just said, we've had 3 different versions of what a man is. I just want to ask you guys, just based on what the situation was, who was it or what was it that gave you the idea or the image of what a man should be?
Who is it?
Or maybe an idea, or you seen traits similar from your father or an uncle or somebody online. They say everybody thinking.
I don't know. For me, I'd probably say just the men I've seen. And obviously my father, obviously. Because it's like, my dad doesn't live with me, but he still cares for me. He still owned that responsibility. Do you get it? Because he could have just easily gone, oh, don't live with you, mate. Sorry, gone.
Yeah.
But he's still there. He still provides if I needed it. So I'm like, yo, if you're a man, you must provide. You must take responsibility for whatever you've done, you've caused in your life. And you own it.
So that's where you got a lot of your morals.
Yeah, that's what I was like, yo, a man has to provide, bro.
What about you?
He has to.
You talking about your dad there.
Yeah.
To some degree, I wouldn't be able to say my dad, simply because I don't want to live life like my dad lived. My dad's 74, still working 4 days a week, a job that he's not passionate about it. He probably doesn't hate it, but he hasn't got a spring in his step. He's probably late most mornings because he really subconsciously doesn't want to be there. He's living a very subconscious life. So I couldn't look at my dad and say, I just want to be like you. Is the characteristics that I look at and take from him? 100%. He's the most caring man I've ever met in my life. And I take that from him. But I look at my dad and think, what parts of you do I want to take on? What parts of you do I not want to take on? What can I learn from you, which I see in you where you're not happy, that I can kind of learn from that and make myself a little bit happier?
I agree with that.
So to a degree, yeah, parents will play a part. I got brought up with Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger. They were our role models in films. And this day and age, we've got Sam Smith.
Or Lil Nas X.
So like the role models in society these days are massively, massively changing. So at this point, I would have to say, being completely open and honest, Andrew Tate has made a big influence on me and bringing my masculine side out of me, because I've been deep into the whole subconscious mind, the whole mental health, the whole kind of healing yourself. And naturally with that comes a lot of compassion. And now compassion is something I didn't even know what it was a couple of years ago. So you can imagine what my life was like in terms of looking back at my past self and having a lot of guilt and regret and shame hanging over my shoulders. So learning compassion was great, and it kind of balanced me out. I understand how I was, or why I was how I was. I understand why I'd done those things. I understand, and I can forgive myself in the past, which is one thing I would like to mention. If anyone is listening who has got a lot of guilt and shame around them or hanging on their shoulders, they need to look back at their previous self and understand that they were just doing their best at that time and have compassion for their old self. So for me, for example, I met a girl who is now my best friend. And for the first year of our relationship, I treated her like shit. And I had a lot of guilt and shame over that. She loved me, I loved her, and I treated her like shit. Don't even know why she still speaks to me.
We appreciate you guys so much for making it to the end of the video. We really do. And looking at our analytics, over 80% of you guys are subscribed.
So if you could do us a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. It does a lot more than you know.
Thank you for making it to the end of the episode, and make sure you go and check out the newest episode coming out Monday.
So for a long time, I had a lot of guilt and shame, and it ate me up inside. But going down the route of understanding the subconscious mind and our trauma and how it affects us as adults and stuff, I could look back on myself at that time and think, you know what, I was just doing my best. I didn't consciously say, I'm going to treat her like shit and this is the plan of action I'm going to execute to make her feel dead bad. It just kind of happened, you know?
I said execute.
A little master plan to make her feel the worst possible way I could, yeah? It wasn't like that. It was... I was living my life and I was suffering in my own way, and the consequences of that was making her feel shit, right? So going down the route of the deep-rooted mindset stuff and relieving trauma, you learn compassion, but then it almost becomes a bit of a reason why you acted like that. So all that's well and good, and I think it's needed, but the reason why I'm saying that is because that didn't give me any get up and go. So talking about role models and influence and kind of, you know, the masculine male role model, I would say Andrew Tate and his story of where he got brought up with nothing and where he is now and his attitude and all the things you can learn, whether you like him or not. Like anyone listening, I would like just to say, put your ego aside for 10 seconds and just ask yourself, what can you learn from this man? Most people who don't like him will automatically say nothing, but that's their ego kicking off.
We got 20 minutes left.
Okay, cool.
Cool. I'll quickly finish this up. So
yeah.
So Andrew Tate for me has really given me that get up and go, which on top of all the compassion stuff I've learned in the masterminds and mindset stuff I've done in the past, it's been perfect for me. It's raised my own standards. I'm a very no bullshit, take responsibility type of guy. And that with standards through the roof, I think is a great recipe for success in whatever you're working on.
Facts.
I think we ain't even touched.
I know,
We ain't even touched a
You know
lot
what
of
it
other
feels
stuff.
like? It's just like we're just touching the surface.
Yeah, we can fire some bits out if you want, like short. Like I can give quick answers if I need.
How long have we got this camera? 20 minutes. All right, cool. We'll ask a few questions. We'll ask 2 more questions each because we don't want this podcast to go very long.
Go on.
But a question to you, Peter Crone. Tell me one lesson that stuck with you that you've done with Peter Crone.
Being very careful with the words I use.
Okay.
So in the past, I would just speak. First word that came to my mind would come out my mouth. Now, there's a little question mark in between these two things where it's like thought, question. So the words we use and the language we use is the voice of our subconscious mind. Now, this is actually more about, or more importantly, the way we speak to ourselves inside our heads. That little voice in our heads, that is the most powerful voice you'll ever hear. Because if you say something like, I am fat. You're probably, if you keep repeating that over and over and over again, you're probably going to stay fat. Yeah. Sure. If you say, I am X, Y, and Z, see how there's no kind of room for maneuver there almost, rather than I have body fat or I'm a little bit more overweight than I like. It's kind of saying the same thing, but just in a less rigid, stuck way. So now there's room for change. Now there's room for maneuver. So the language that I say inside my head, but also speak outwards, is one of the most important things. Not just to get yourself across in an accurate way, but more from a relieving weight off your shoulders aspect. So I'll try and use one example for myself. I used to always say, I'm 0 or 100. I'm either 0 or 100, right? In whatever I do. Great for if I want to get in shape. I'm 0 or 100. I guess actually, so what I'm doing now is analysing what I've just said. That's what I learned from Peter Crow. So I've just said there, I'm 0 or 100, and it might be great for getting in shape. That's a phrase I've just used 20 seconds ago. But now I'm analysing that and thinking, actually, is that true? It's actually not true what I've just said, because as we also said before, me being theoretically 0 or 100, or let's say I'm 100 and getting in shape, may lead me down the road of body complex, bodybuilder, and actually training from a bad energy. So I'm going to kind of retrace my steps a little bit here and say, my old self used to say, I'm 0 or 100, right? That was actually my downfall in binge drinking. Once I have one, I'm out for 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah? Being 0 or 100 is two extremes. And I think when you're at any end of any scale, it's never a good place.
True.
So it's very much like, if I always say, I said this for years, I'm 0 or 100. Do you know how I stopped myself being 0 or 100? I bought a box of Ferrero Rochers and I said to myself, I'm going to eat one, just one, every day until this box is gone. Because I had to teach myself and prove to myself more so than teach that I am not 0 or 100.
Okay.
So, because I would eat a box of Ferrero. If I open it, my subconscious mind is saying, and I've told myself this for years, I'm 0 or 100. I might as well finish it.
Finish the box.
Box off. So,
You go box off.
so then if I prove that little voice wrong and I only eat one for the day, one per day for a month or whatever, I'm not 0 or 100 now. Oh, well, guess what? When I go out and have a drink, I don't have to drink the bar dry. I can just have one.
Drink the bar dry.
Because I'm not 0 or 100. Yeah. So the words that we use in our mind is one of the most important things. That's the biggest thing I learned from Peter Crow, amongst many, many different things.
Man, he's authentic, man. Everything he said today is, you always had an experience with it.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
Let me ask you my personal question. I feel like you will give some interesting answers.
Okay.
What's 7 things you can't live without?
7 things I can't live without?
Yeah.
Nothing. I can live without everything, apart from food and water. And air.
That was a very interesting question. That was a very interesting answer.
That is true.
If I can't live without those things, that just seems shit to me. Like, I'm going to guess a common answer would be the phone.
Yeah, very common. Normally in the top 3. The first 3, not top.
You can't live without a phone. Come on. You could.
I mean,
Let's go back to language. If they're saying, whoever's said that answer is saying, I can't live without my phone, they'll never be able to not live without the phone, because that's what they're telling themselves.
Am I weird for having this thought? I've always thought to myself, once 10 years time, I've done this podcast, PE's probably been on so many adventures, to forget it all, as in get up, pack bags, and go somewhere else where there's no phone, no internet, don't speak to me.
Mate, that's
and I feel like that might be my angle.
Mate, that's a holiday. That's a holiday.
No, holiday.
That's a holiday. What you just explained there, that's a holiday. That's a 2025 holiday, in my opinion, because like our phones, technology.
I'm talking about for life though, as in never come back to this world.
Mate, I would consider it.
You've been considering that too?
I mean, yeah.
As in nowhere, like I've got enough money where even if I was there, I can buy whatever I want.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. That's a peaceful life, mate. So it's a very good question you asked. What 7 things can you not live without? What you're almost asking there is, what are you attached to?
That's the reason I ask it. Because
What are you attached to?
the answers that people give, you can tell what kind of person they are. Because normally, if they're making all their money online and money's all they care about, laptop, Wi-Fi, then they struggle with the rest.
It's very dangerous territory to need something. So if I need my phone, firstly, is that true? No, it's not. But let's just argue and say it is. If that phone breaks or I lose it or it gets pinched, my life's shit instantly. Yeah. If I need, I don't know, what is there any other answers, like common answers?
Common answers, laptop.
Technology again.
Food and water.
Yeah, standard food and
that's
water,
the-
like things to live, yeah.
A house.
Yeah.
I lived in a transit van for 3 months. One of the best times of my life.
Doesn't sound good.
Travelled the UK, done work on the road with the online business, obviously only need Wi-Fi.
People have said family and friends.
Yes.
It helps.
True.
It helps. But even with that, right, again, if you need them, if anything was to happen and, you know, shit was to hit the fan and you ended up without them, you're automatically a lack and a loss and in a state of suffering. If you don't need them, need is a very powerful word. If you don't need them, but you can have them, that's a different ballgame.
True.
So yeah, I wouldn't say anything apart from the essentials like food and water that
You
keep
are
me
the
alive.
first person to not answer that question.
Yeah,
That was massive. I'd like to thank. In fact, give me a
yeah, nah, class man.
I'd like to thank you, Kieran, for coming on.
Amazing person.
I will say this loud and clear so people listen at home. Kieran will be on again. Kieran will be on again.
I look forward to
Because
it.
we didn't even, the notes we haven't really scraped them, so there definitely needs to be a part
It's funny because we don't even have a lot of notes, but we've barely touched any of the notes.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's, yeah.
I feel like this was a great podcast. Many things spoken about.
Class.
What it means to be a man, transgender,
Consciousness.
mental health, consciousness, the
Self-awareness.
mindset,
Physical body.
This has been a proper podcast. Like
Yeah.
a proper
100%.
Aaron kind of podcast.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
Aaron kind of
100%,
podcast.
100%.
Like, where you feel like I've gained something from this. So thank you very much for this, Kieran.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.